What's up? It is NFL Draft Week. We are here. Olin is back. It is the CHGO Bears podcast presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Welcome in. Let's make a pact, Chicago. The rest of this week will be better than that awful weekend of sports we just endured.
Oh, I hope so.
Brutal basketball. I don't want to even talk about my White Sox. That's embarrassing. Frankly, I don't even know what the Cubs did.
Blackhawks too. The fire. Like literally every sports team in Chicago just had a rough weekend.
The Milwaukee Bucks is a good basketball team.
Very.
Giannis, the point guard is Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
That's defense he plays now.
Drew
That's
Holiday.
defense. I was wondering. I think it was the Bears game. I mean, the Bulls game. Did you guys hear Van Gundy's quote? He was talking about, and he's an old ball coach. I'm an old ball guy, so obviously, but he said, competitive character, true competitive spirit. Everybody now knows what to say to the media after games, but when you watch, it's hard to find great competitors. And when you do, you may have to overpay for that. And I think it's money well spent. Mm-hmm. And coming into draft week, I thought to myself, that is well said. And obviously, he's an old ball guy. You know, we love this whole, dream of competitive guys, and they make a big difference on the team. But I thought that was well said. But when you watch the Bucks play, Holiday, the point guard, I mean, that guy competes on every play, man. And then obviously Giannis is just a freak. But like you guys said, draft week, what an exciting week, man, for players and their families. And it really is a good week for football players and guys coming out of college. And I know there's the whole team aspect, and we follow Chicago Bears, and gosh, we hope to hit on their 2 second-round picks. But man, for the families and the kids going through this week and the guys about to get drafted, congratulations to all of them.
And that is a great point, Olin, because that's, in essence, that's a lot of what the draft is about, right? Like trying to find the guys that are going to have that competitive fire, be obsessed with the game, be responsible off the field, which unfortunately is another thing we have to talk about to start the show today, because over the weekend, Byron Pringle was arrested for essentially reckless driving, suspended license. He was doing donuts in his car, allegedly, with one of his children in the car. Tough subject to talk about, but it kind of goes back to the draft conversation, though, because you want to find guys that are not going to do things like this off the field.
Right.
And here's a wide receiver who, by the way, is only on a 1-year deal.
Donut Gate.
Yeah, the Donut Gate from Nomad there. Love it.
So, you know what? Let's put that off. Let's not start negatively
guy who's dealt
again.
with it. Yeah, a guy who's dealt with
we
stuff.
will address it, but it's time to bring in a general manager, a former Bears general manager that knows a little bit about something. Finding guys that love football, that don't want to be putting up with their phone ringing on a weekend in April with some guy who got arrested for doing donuts in a parking lot. Jerry Angelo is with us. You know him. You love him. Of course, Olin knows him well. Jerry, thanks so much for joining our show today.
We'll get his video fixed, but a lot of years here with Jerry. Been through a few contract negotiations with him, a lot of drafts, right? I think he's 11 years the Bears general manager.
Let's try him again, Jerry. I'm not sure if we had the audio correct. We got you now?
Okay, do you hear me?
Yeah,
We got you. That's awesome.
Great. Hey,
Good to see you, Jerry.
Hey, Olin, good seeing you, buddy.
Yeah.
You know what, Olin? Just looking at you right now, I think I like that helmet on a little bit better.
Those contracts you gave me have done me well, Jerry. I appreciate that, man.
Oh, man. Okay. You don't tell the rent where the cheese is, Olin. You're right about that.
Hey, so, Jerry, give us an idea. It's Monday of NFL Draft Week. What's going on this week? What kind of last checks and balances is going on in the front office if you guys try to set that final board that you're going to follow diligently throughout the draft as things get crazy and you get unexpected things thrown your way?
Well, I think right now everybody's set. They know what they want to do. draft day is the day of acting, not reacting. All the what ifs, the scenarios are being played through, this week. They're listening to calls, in particular teams that may be serious about trades, in particularly with your pick. And then if you feel like there's something you may want to do, you may float some things to teams. But right now, it's just, I don't want to say posturing, but you're just listening and just going over your strategy, just making sure everybody's on the same page.
It's when you have an offensive player and a defensive player, maybe grade the same, and you have all these holes on a roster, how do you determine what kind of player to draft? Do you go to your offensive and defensive coaches, have that discussion when you do have a bunch of areas that need to get addressed and maybe limited draft capital?
Good question. And probably the best way to answer that question, I always, before we got with this, do anything in terms of prioritizing players, I first wanted to know from our coaches what the core positions were, offense, defensively. So maybe on offense, you would get a center, a tackle, running back, wide receiver, tight end. I would exclude the quarterback. Those would be the 5 core positions on offense. Defensively, most likely you would get 2 defensive linemen, Mike Backer, a safety, and a corner. So you have 10 positions now that you were saying these are our core positions. We want to get the best possible players at these 10 positions. And then that would help you prioritize how you're going to set your board. And to answer your question, if 2 players, similar grades, well, if one's that core player, then obviously he would take precedent, on draft day.
Jerry, I got 2 questions for you. Obviously, first of all, do you remember bringing in an undrafted free agent named Ryan Poles, who now is the general manager for the Chicago Bears? And then number 2 is when you do come in, you did it. You came in here. We weren't winning a lot, and you have to change and take a really clear-eyed look at what the building has and what it doesn't have. And then you hire Lovie Smith, and kind of they've gone back to it with Coach Eberflus here, who is of the Tampa 2, preaches almost the same thing that Lovie does. How does that whole process look when you have to change the building, get everybody on the same page, try to change the culture, but yet try to switch the whole team to where you can start winning consistently?
That's a tough one, certainly not easy to do, particularly when you don't have an established quarterback in place. So you better have a blueprint for that, and I felt like we did. But going back, when I first came into Chicago, that was a very good nucleus of players, Olin. We had, Cade McCown, I believe. That was, first and foremost how we were going to address that. But thankfully, we had Jim Miller. So we had a good guy in the bullpen, a guy we can win with. From there, we won a lot of games, won the division. As I said, there was a good core there. Now, we made the transition over to Lovie, and that was a total transition. We were a 3-4, go to a 4-3. Offensively, we brought Ron Turner in, and Ron had a familiarity with Chicago football. So the biggest thing was the defense. And I think, and I see this with the Bears now, they're measuring. They're not going to do anything, totally out of the box until they know who they are. So in that first year, you have your blueprint. You want to, really evaluate your football team, make sure everybody's on the same page, get through that first year the best you can. And, then now, what you need to do free agency draft.
Hey, Jerry, we appreciate you having on. We're going to try to clean up your audio if we can, or There's just something coming back and forth a little bit here. So, but we appreciate Jerry Angelo jumping on with us. It's awesome hearing his perspective, and I understand that people are having a hard time listening with it. So, Jerry, thanks so much. But we'll see if we can clear that up. Let's go back to just this. I want to talk about real quick, going back to Byron Pringle and that issue. One thing I just want to make perfectly clear, because I think, this time of year things get blown up a little bit, stuff like that. The Bears needed a wide receiver before that happened over the weekend. They still need multiple wide receivers after it happened. So this idea, because I've seen this in a couple places in the last 48 hours, that the arrest of Byron Pringle over the weekend is going to alter the Bears draft strategy. I don't think it alters anything. Like, their needs are still the same as they were before. He was on a 1-year contract for like around $4 million. That when you're on a 1-year contract, you can't ever feel safe. And so I don't necessarily know if this infraction is worth just cutting them and saying goodbye necessarily. But if it did happen, I probably wouldn't blink and be like, okay, man,
and that's where you worry about a guy like, you just worried about Byron Pringle and his career. We used to have a saying in NFL locker room, you better be good enough. If you make a mistake, you better be good enough to justify them keeping you around while you're giving them headaches, right? The better you are, the more headaches you can give somebody. If you're not that good, which Byron Pringle has not proven to be that good in his NFL career, you just don't want to be getting arrested no matter how small the infraction may seem, right? So NFL players, the guys are younger. There's money involved. There's fast cars. These guys are, listen, I'm always surprised when people are surprised when stuff like this happens. This is a violent football game played by violent, passionate men. They're going to make some dumb decisions. When I was 20 years old, I came out my rookie year. I got drafted by Chicago Bears. I got a DUI almost immediately. That's how dumb I was. It was a dumb mistake. And we can all grow up, and they put things in my contract that could be a problem. So this is not the end-all for Byron Pringle. They need a wide receiver, as Adam said. They need an offensive lineman. The closer we get to the draft, the more I think to myself, they can't justify doing anything else with those 2 second-round picks but giving guys to work with Justin Fields. That's what they have to do there.
Absolutely.
In my mind, they can't justify doing anything else except building around Justin Fields and giving him guys that could possibly be Pro Bowl type players. So as far as Pringle goes, I don't think anybody expected him to be a number 1 receiver. People expected him to at least contribute. The way their free agency went, Nicholas, you were hoping that he would have a big year, be a Akeem Hicks type, come out of nowhere, right? But what happened with Ogunjobi, what happened with Brian Allen. Now it's happening with Pringle. It's just they don't need this news this week.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like you just don't want to see that, right? As a general manager who spoke glowingly about Byron Pringle when, Adam, you were down in Florida there. So seeing that is, I think, just disappointing. But the whole, on Bears Twitter saying you got to cut the guy because of this, I don't think that's really the case. It's just, he made a mistake. Imagine, Olin, social media was as big as it is now back then. All the things that you would hear about.
Yes. You would hear it's a different atmosphere, right? And he's obviously, I think he's 28, and you don't like to hear there's a kid in the car. I'd be lying if I told you that my dad didn't do donuts with me in the car. So there's just different. Everyone's different, grows up differently. You hate to hear the fact that he was argumentative with the police. You hate to hear that stuff. But it's just like you talked about, right? We're trying to get to know this new general manager, and you want to get to trust the things he tells you on the podium.
Yeah.
He told us Byron Pringle was this great teammate, contributor, vouched for him. Now this, right? It's just things on a team that can handle these kind of things is a team that's been successful for a while.
True. Yeah.
The Bears haven't had a lot of success. So now this is just another mark against them. It makes you question them again, something that nobody, I guess the best way to put it, Adam and Nicholas, is this. We didn't want to talk about it this week.
No.
Ryan Pose definitely doesn't want to talk about it this week. Right? Nobody wants to talk about Byron Pringle when there's about to be some young guys in here who just fulfilled part of their dream.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and by the way, Ryan Poles is talking to the media tomorrow pre-draft, so he's going to talk a lot this week. This is the 1 week of the year you hear the GM constantly, so we'll hear what he has to say about this.
That's what I'm saying,
and,
right?
And you know what, though? One of the mistakes of the last regime, in my opinion, was not taking chances on guys. So as long as you set yourself up.
Well, and then there's what, like, do you worry about that?
Yeah.
Do you guys worry about that now where, like, George and Ted are like, no.
Yeah. Well, I think we have Jerry back. Jerry, I'm sorry about the audio issues. We're trying to work them out. I hope we got you now. But thanks for sticking with us here. Let's start. We've been talking about Byron Pringle, who was arrested over the weekend. He's on a 1-year contract for about $4 million. Since you're GM, I want to ask you about that. How hard is it to juggle guys that might have red flags? How much can you stomach off the field issues while also trying to set yourself up with the contracts in a way where if something does come up where you might have to cut a guy theoretically, that you actually can do it based on what the contract looks like, and basically you can take a risk on a guy without it costing the team too much.
Right. Well, it's a reward and risk business. Obviously, you have to be very calculated when you do it. You're going to make mistakes, but the worst thing you can do when you make a mistake is try to justify it. Cut your losses and move on. If a player has an off-field incident, then he really better bring something to the table. We had Tank Johnson, absolute nightmare. Good player on the field, but he just couldn't, help himself. We did as much as we could, and I'm using this as an example, and I really like Tank as a person, as a player. But sometimes, I always said this, players cut themselves. You know who you are, and you know what the business is about. And if you do something stupid, there are going to be consequences. General managers, coaches alike have to make that decision. But the thing you don't want baggage. And the other thing is the maintenance, that a player brings. People won't talk about that, and that's a big issue. Is he worth the maintenance, the negative publicity? What are you telling your fan base? What are you telling your locker room? These are all the questions that you have to answer. If you decide to, continue on.
Headphones or something. We know, like, guys like me and you, it's hard to get this stuff to work. But we appreciate you coming on, taking your time, man, and it's good to see you.
Oh, same here, Olin. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jerry Angelo, former general manager of the Chicago Bears. That's honestly too bad because he's got so much great insight and would have loved to hear more. And I know he was getting through some of that. We're all kind of trying to get through it.
Yeah.
I did like the one comment that came in. Come on, Rodgers, fix it. So hey, you know what? This is.
He did say there. He alluded to are they worth the maintenance?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And that's what we're saying about Brian Pringle. When you have a new general manager, all the press the Bears have took this year, which haven't been a lot of good press.
Yeah.
And on draft week, when all it is positive mostly, right? They just had their first minicamp. Like Adam brought up, you're going to hear from Ryan Poles a lot, Nicholas. Now he's going to have to answer this.
Yeah, he definitely is. And actually, Olin, you mentioned minicamp. We noticed that when we were there, Adam and I, that there were a couple players not there at the voluntary minicamp, like a Jalen Johnson being maybe one of the bigger names, a Robert Quinn being a veteran, though. How do you take that for as obviously being a former player if you don't show up to a voluntary minicamp?
I always wondered. I didn't take it personally. I always kind of wondered why. Like, well, what else are you doing? Like, there's not much to do in the off season really. When they're there, unless I'm mistaken, they're there at 8 a.m. You leave at noon during most days of the week. But nowadays, a guy like Jalen Johnson, Robert Quinn, you don't worry about them in September, August. You'd like them to make the 3 days. You'd like to see all your teammates, get to know everybody, have them run around. But I will always say this. The farther away you get from the football, the more those guys don't have to be there that much. Those guys are just kind of, they do their jobs, right? And like Robert Quinn, I'm going to line him up, and he's going to bend like Gumby to the quarterback. No matter what scheme he's in, no matter what he's doing, as long as he's in top shape. Nowadays with the NFL, if you're worried about these guys, put somebody on a private jet. Go see what they're doing. That's to me, that's not hard to do, especially those two guys. Those are two pretty important guys. You'd like to see them here, new coaching staff, new defensive line coach, new cornerback coach, new defensive coordinator. You'd like to see them in the building, especially for those 3 days. But remember now, unless I'm mistaken, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, this is an extra minicamp.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot more work left to be done, and I'm sure they looked at it that way.
Yeah.
Like this is an extra one.
It's a bonus. It almost happens too quickly because, you know, the way they ramp you up. Now, they did get to go to House Hall a couple weeks earlier, but, you know, if you're a guy like Robert Quinn, you're like, great, that just means like 2 less weeks of my offseason before I got to, show up to work. So I think it's a case-by-case business basis. And, you know, Jalen Johnson, though, there's still somebody, you're still on your rookie deal. You still got something to prove. I'd like to know where he was, but, you know, Robert Quinn, certainly I don't worry about him. I did want to finish a thought earlier as we were trying to bring Jerry back on, and just the idea of tolerating risk. And I think that the last regime, I don't know if they were just so startled by what happened with Ray McDonald and how much that backfired, and really put a lot of that fell on George McCaskey because he publicly talked about it and signed off on it, and then it backfired quickly. But that was such an extreme example that I almost felt like they went too far the other way, where like anybody with a red flag, they crossed off the list immediately. And so the point I was getting at earlier is, you know, regardless of what player it is, if you got a guy who might have some character issues, as long as you stomach, you know, you can take the risk, but give yourself an out. So this is a 1-year contract. The problem I might have a little bit with the contract is that 3.9 of the 4.1, I think it is guaranteed right off the bat as a signing bonus. And that can give a player a little bit of complacency, right? You're like, here's the money up front, right? I like contracts a lot of times where it's an incentive base, or you got to show up to the games. You got to get those Now, I'm all for players getting their money, the ones that earn it, right? So this goes back to what you were saying, Olin. Like, are you good enough to be able to put up with some of this stuff? And so by kind of front-loading one contract where almost all the money is the signing bonus. Now, sometimes those signing bonuses can be recuperated if you end up getting arrested and things like that happen. So I don't know what's going to end up happening in this situation. My guess is Byron Pringle gets another opportunity here. Yeah. It's not all thrown away because of donuts in the parking lot. I'm not trying to overblow this thing. All I'm trying to say is I'm okay with Ryan Poles taking more risks than Ryan Pace did, as long as there are ways to get out of it. If, like, the bottom line with the Ray McDonald thing, as stupid of a signing as it was, because his red flags were like up to here, as maximized as they could have been, they did get out of it just fine. It was just bad PR for a couple months.
Let's be honest about not where we are salary cap wise, right? I mean, receivers are making, what did Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams sign for? $30 million a year. So really, Pringle's contract, even though it's 3.9 guaranteed, that's really backup wide receiver money nowadays, right? So that's what they gave. And now, you know, I just don't, like you're saying, like, gosh, I don't want to be talking about Brian Pringle the week of the draft, right? Like that's the only problem with all of this. And like you're saying, hopefully there's not more to the story. Hopefully it was donuts in the parking lot, and it's something they'll talk to them about and say, let's not do this stupid stuff again. Especially don't be arguing with the police officers and all that kind of things that you have to go through when you make a mistake like this. But like the Bears don't want to, we don't want to spend too much time on Brian Pringle.
It's true.
Let's talk about another guy that hopefully we're not talking about too much come the season. But the Bears did sign an offensive lineman.
Right.
Julian Davenport, guy who's been around, fourth-round pick out of Bucknell a few years ago, I think 2017 draft. And he's bounced around a little bit. He was originally involved in that Laramie Tunsil trade.
Okay.
He was drafted by the Texans. He went to Miami in that trade and then was in Indianapolis last year where Matt Eberflus was, obviously on the other side of the football. But it's a guy who's had some starting experience. The tape, though, is the reason why he's not guaranteed more starting experience. And I think ideally he is suited as a possible candidate to be that swing tackle come the regular season. Hopefully that's what you're talking about with the Julian Davenport. And I have to say, we talked about this last week as a position of need. One of the most glaring things, Olin, when we stepped out on that practice field last week, it wasn't just, Larry's at left tackle, Tevin's at right, which, by the way, we want to get your thoughts on too. But it was like, wait, who's the backup when one of these guys inevitably goes down or struggles?
Yeah, there is a lot left to do, right? Especially with the offensive line, which we were told that's basically what Ryan Poles sold George McCaskey and Ted Phillips on, that he was going to fix, was the offensive line. So you expect that in this draft coming is a few more bodies with a couple high picks. I would almost expect 2 out of those first 3 picks to be offensive linemen and get them in the building, because you have to eventually put assets there. You have to put money where your mouth is. You keep saying they got to fix this. We haven't seen anything yet. They didn't go out and get Armstead. They tried to sign Brian Allen, but they didn't want to pay above what the Rams were paying him. So they ended up with Lucas Patrick, right? They went after Bates for the Buffalo Bills, didn't get him. The Bills matched. Both contracts, they didn't offer a ton, right? We just talked about wide receiver. Basically, they paid their Lucas Patrick and Bates, they basically offered them backup money to be starters for the Chicago Bears, right? Starting offensive linemen now in the NFL, guards, 10 or more million, right? Centers, 10 or more million, at least 8 or 9 up there. Both guys offered $4 million. So we haven't seen them make a run at this position yet. You got to imagine they're thinking the draft, Nicholas, is where it's at.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to have an article come out later today where it's an all-offensive draft. And Eberflus talked about, like, hey, Luke Getsy, you got to lobby for me. Alan Williams, you got to lobby. Well, Getsy wins in this scenario that I have, and just I do have some linemen at the top of that. So definitely check that out later. But, Adam, I saw someone say that they just need bodies. And I think that's kind of like the main thing that we're talking about here is, like, the Bears need bodies. Davenport's a body.
Are you guys comfortable going to the season with Borum as your starting left tackle?
Let's hold that thought.
Okay.
Because I actually want to ask you that same question. First, we got to tell our listeners and viewers here, if you haven't already, the best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app. Use code CHGO when you sign up. And if you do that right now, you'll get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. But that's not it. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership where you can read that all-offensive draft that Nick was just talking about, or my Bears Things column coming out with the perfect draft. Ooh. That's what I'm calling it. Really just how things could perfectly fall for the Bears, which it won't, by the way. But if you make that $50 or more first-time deposit, you get that free membership, unlocks all of that web content, and you get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. $2,000 in free bets, the free CHGO membership, and a free T-shirt, potentially like the one I'm wearing today, from the CHGO locker, all for making more than a $50 first-time deposit at PointsBet. Any questions, email PointsBet at allchgo.com. We'll help you out. Your home for live in-play betting just got even better. Introducing PointsBet's new feature, the live NBA same-game parlay. Build the perfect live NBA same-game parlay only with PointsBet. You can boost those parlays too. Watch live, parlay live, boost live, all with PointsBet. And online sign-up is available now in Illinois. Download that app, the PointsBet app, right now. Register your account from start to finish, all on your phone. What are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Support for CHGO is brought to you by Manscaped.
Here we go.
Here we go. Who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming?
That's right.
Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code 20bears at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 8 million balls. So now you have that. Every guy has unfortunately had a
what kind of math was that?
The math that Manscaped does.
Okay.
So every guy has unfortunately had a too close encounter while trying to preserve, well, those family jewels. So Manscaped decided to absolutely change the game, and they have done so with the Performance Package 4.0. Inside the package, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker, ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all your goodies. So it's time to take care of yourself. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with code 20bears. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code 20bears at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use code 20bears. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Joe says he loves the ball talk. Hey, that's what we do here. We talk ball on the CHGO Bears podcast.
8 million balls, apparently.
Well, that's a lot of balls. Olin.
Yes, sir.
Your question that you asked right before that outstanding break we just had.
Yes.
Larry Borum starting at left tackle.
Yeah.
How did you phrase it? Am I okay with him starting the season at left tackle?
Are you comfortable if he is the only option?
Well, I'm not
at
comfortable if
left
he's
tackle?
the only option. What I will say is I am
Well,
okay.
let's say Davenport. Okay, right now it's Davenport, Jenkins, Borum.
Mm-hmm.
Right, where the Bears are drafting. You'd have to say the only other option would be either Dwayne Brown or Fisher, the free agents.
Yeah.
Right, because you expect the top 4 or 5 tackles to be gone.
And I don't think Fisher's signing a contract right now to compete for left tackle. Unless he's totally forced to.
Well,
come
yeah,
August.
unless, probably everybody thought about that about Jason Peters last year, right? Like he's probably not going to come off a fishing boat, but sure enough,
Well,
he
I just
does.
mean like Peters may have had offers this time of year to go compete for a job. He waited till August when it was like, hey, we need you to come start week 1.
You think
You know what I mean?
you think Fisher hasn't been offered a contract yet?
By the Bears or I just
by anybody.
I just no, I'm not saying that. I don't know if he's been presented an offer where it's like, hey man, we want you to come be our left tackle.
Got you.
It might be like, hey, we have these 2 young tackles. If you're the Bears potentially off in a contract, which I don't know if that's happened. I'm just saying, hey, if you come here to Chicago, just so you know, we got some guys here that we kind of hope end up being our tackles, but we want you to come sign up, be potentially the swing backup, or end up being the starter if it doesn't work out. At his point in his career, I don't know if he's up for that. Regardless, getting back to your question, I like how they're starting this. I am okay with them giving Larry Borum the chance to fail at left tackle or earn the job, because I think Tevin Jenkins ideally has a higher chance of succeeding if he's just the right tackle. And there's enough that we saw from Larry Borum in a very, very small sample size, mind you, that intrigues me to at least, hey, let's get you out there to start training camp when the pads go on, see how you handle it. I'm not saying that that's going to be the answer, or I feel great about that being the week 1 thing. It depends on how he performs in training camp. Unfortunately, the kid last year suffered that concussion when he got that opportunity. True, yep. He missed a lot of practices in training camp, and we really never got to see that.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I do like Larry Borum being at that left tackle for now, but I like to feel comfortable with him, Davenport, and then obviously we have Jenkins over there too. I think that just kind of shows the direction also that they might want to go in the draft. Go find a left tackle, and I don't think Jason Peters is going to come back off the boat and kind of save you there anymore, but I would think if that's the case, that's what they're thinking, drafting somebody.
Yeah, I just don't know if you find a starting left tackle in the draft in the later rounds, right? I think once Iquanu and Cross and Penning go, and Neal from Alabama, for this draft really falls off. at the tackle spot. So it's going to be now Tyler Smith. I think we did.
Yep.
Really kind of a project though. When there's someone uses his hands like that on film, you worry about him in the NFL. Obviously, any tackle that would come in here, you'd work against. The good thing for Borum and any tackle is you're going to be working against Robert Quinn.
True.
And there's not a better pass rusher in the NFL. Last year, at that position, he's going to give you all the problems you can handle. It'll get you ready for the season. But am I comfortable with Borum at just having the same guys we had last year? No.
Yeah.
No, but I don't know, besides signing Teron Armstead, which they didn't do, and then Dwayne Brown, who's out there, because we keep talking about Fisher, but I think Dwayne Brown is actually right now the better answer. He was a left tackle for the Seahawks last year. He was actually in Houston when they traded for Tunsil and all. Anyway, I think he's the guy to go. I just would like a guy like that there, and that may be their plan. That may be what they are eventually going to do, see how the draft, and they don't want the guy here now, like you guys are saying, because then you take reps away from Borum at left tackle. But these reps, I hate to say this, they're basically useless, right? They can't put guys in front of each other anymore. There's no full pads. You got to put them on the field. The thing that worries me about Borum when I watch his film or when I study him is, like you talked about, the injury, right? The not being healthy all the time. And then it's Justin Fields on the field, and Lucas Patrick is not like a huge, like we got an all-pro center, right? So I don't know where we got better along the offense, right? And we guys talked about last week, you guys took a lot of grief for saying the offense, Justin Fields performed bad. The offense performed bad in 7-on-7. My response when I heard that stuff when I was in Florida was, I'm not shocked. They don't have a ton of talent on their offense. Yeah. So when they go against a defense and you got a new offense coordinator, a new system, and you're trying to run Aaron Rodgers' offense, it's going to be bumpy at first.
Going to have some struggles. Yeah.
And let me clarify something I said earlier about Fisher, because I think it applies to Brown too, is just I think at this point, late April, both sides, whether you're the teams or the players who are still free agents, you want to see how the draft plays out first. Because you want to see, you don't want to sign somewhere and then 3 days later they draft a left tackle with their first pick. You know what I mean? Right. And you're like, oh, well, why did I sign here? So that's why there's this wave of free agency we keep talking about that is coming here in the next couple of weeks. So just something to keep in mind.
I think it was 2009. And no one has more respect for this guy when he was playing than me, but we signed Orlando Pace. And Big O is a Hall of Fame left tackle, as good as a left tackle as there was in the NFL. I think he was second in the Heisman at Ohio State. Anyway, we were doing a drill at Hallis Hall in, I think it was this time of year, April or May. And we were just sliding down the line. And Big O's leg gave out, right? And right there, we knew he wasn't going to make it through the year at left tackle, right? We didn't have – so that's somewhat of some – maybe, you know, like what Peters did last year was almost amazing.
Yeah.
Right? He came in. Like that was lucky. That was rolling the dice. You don't know when your body says it's enough. You don't know when it's over. But when it's over, it's over, right? So to get them in the camp and make sure you look at them moving around, how they recover from doing O-line drills. Can they recover? Can they get to the next week? Can they play X number of games in a row? That's the risk you're taking if you don't bring them in until August, right? Because you don't. Very true, yeah. What Pete, like I keep trying to explain this to everybody. What Peters did was really impressive.
Yeah, unicorn.
Right? Just the fact that, like I said, okay, cool, we signed him. He'll play 7 or 8 games and his body will be done. No, he was fine. He looked great on film, even late in the year, right? And he was playing. He got hurt in the Green Bay game?
Well, he got hurt in week 1 too.
Right,
yeah,
but
he did.
Remember late in the year and Tevin went in and left tackle? Was that Green Bay?
That was Green Bay where
and they left him one-on-one immediately. Tevin Jenkins one-on-one. But when you remember that? Were you screaming at the TV like me? I was screaming. Anyway, I listen.
All right, go in there.
Listen.
We're going to run the same exact play call we would have called with the Hall of Famer.
Tevin lined up. Hey, Adam Nichols. Tevin lined up. And by his body language and the way he looked, I looked at I was watching the game with Lance and Alex, and I said he's 1-on-1. Just by his body language, I knew. I knew like the play, and I was anyway. Just I would like to see them if that is their plan. I'd like to see them bring the guy in and take a good look at him. You know what I mean? Make sure he can play all year.
Well, and that's why, to be honest, I'm glad it worked out with Jason Peters last year. But at least I was critical that they even got in that situation and that they were relying, because we all knew the Orlando Pace story too, right. And it was like when he got banged up in that first game, and that was not his fault. He got rolled up on it. It wasn't like his body part gave out. But when even just that happening, I go, well, okay, that's kind of what we expected though. That like this guy might only play a couple games, and now to his credit, he played a lot more than that and did a phenomenal job. But you can't be counting on that. It's just not realistic. And so we got to keep that in mind. Hey, if you enjoy CHGO, one way to help us continue to grow is to download the PointsBet app. Use code CHGO. I just realized that rhymes. Why don't you do that like that every time?
Now you're being critical of how I read my PointsBet app.
No, did you realize that rhyme? You're the one who usually does this one.
I usually do.
But you were really excited.
I feel like you are judgmental, though.
You were so excited about doing the Manscaped read, which is great. I just want everybody to know how excited he was about doing the Manscaped
I lobbied to do that.
That we're switching some things up, and that's the first time I've read that sentence, and it rhymes. So, all right. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our great web content. You'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. Any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com. We'll help you out. Online sign-up is available in Illinois. You can download that PointsBet app right now. Register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. You might as well do it right now as you're hanging out with us if you haven't done it already. You'll be signing up with the fastest sportsbook, easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
And Olin, even though you were gone, like people are still wanting the ad reads. So still want the reads. We'll get that situated.
I think you got to do the Manscaped one.
That'd be great too. That'd be great. As long as
you guys stop talking about balls so much, I'll jump in.
We can try.
It's just uncomfortable, but that's all right nowadays.
That's all right.
This is the ball cast.
This is the ball. Yep. CHGO balls. All right.
Let me notice.
Let me ask everybody here. Do you want to start your day with a competitive edge? Our next partner has a product that I use on a daily basis, and it allows you to do that. It's Athletic Greens, and I wanted to see what the hype was all about, so I started taking them right before my morning workouts, and I could feel the difference. I could see the difference. And with 1 scoop of Athletic Greens, you are absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day off right. The mixture of ingredients helps your immune system, gives you energy, and improves your focus, and that's why I take my Athletic Greens to help me get through my busy day. What's awesome about Athletic Greens is that it costs you less than $3 a day. So you're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than that cold brew habit. Also, it helps support better sleep quality and recovery, which we all definitely need. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/CHGOBears. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/CHGOBears. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutrition insurance. Do you feel more focused? I do feel great. I don't know. Maybe it's just Monday, start off the week right, but let's go.
I like the Athletic Greens. I've been taking it.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good stuff.
Good stuff. So.
Jordan had a good question, though. If he wants to know if Olin has a Tommy Bahama drip contract.
Ooh.
I would take a Tommy Bahama contract, though. That would be a good guy. I don't know if I don't think Tommy Bahama would take me, but I would take a Tommy Bahama
Now
contract.
You're repping the Illini. Your mic's kind of blocking it, but you got the Illini logo on there.
Yeah, I was down there for the spring game. Ended up in the store and spent way too much. That has happened when you have 4 daughters. It's hard to tell them no, but spent way too much money in there. So, which is fine, right? I mean, I got 2 boys on that team, so we loaded up on our Illinois drip.
There you go.
I like it.
Like it.
I like it. All right, we have some draft prospects to break down for you. Olin's first time jumping in on this,
Yes.
which we started when
Excited about this.
he went off to Disney World, which we got to get some Disney stories too before we got out of here.
Yes.
Yeah, you know who had a great line? Hester. Hester lives right by Disney World.
Okay.
And he told me, get the ice tub ready. He's right. He spent a whole day at Disney, man. You feel like you need the ice
probably
tub
walk
after.
so
man.
much.
And then, it's, obviously you don't want to complain about being at Disneyland, but it's 90, whatever it is.
The
and,
patience.
yeah, well, you got 5 of them, and it's an odd number, so somebody has to go on with the last one and
Yeah.
ride the rides. But am I up first, or how are we doing this?
We can go in any order.
You know what I have to ask you guys this?
Yeah.
Who is the one? I don't want to take any. I know I'm only here once a week, so I don't want to take any future. But I have a guy. That's why in my head that I'm really interested to see where he goes in the draft. Do you guys have a guy like that? Just one guy you're excited to see where he ends up and watch his career?
I mean, I would say Tyler Lindenbaum because
It's a good one.
this was a guy that I swear when we were watching the games in the fall, everyone was like top 10 pick easily.
Dominant, right?
Now the draft's here, and this is where you got to worry about the smoke that starts getting blown places. But, like, is he really going to fall to the second round?
Right.
I find that
wonder
hard
if-
to believe.
I wonder if the Vikings and Garrett Bradbury have something to do with that. Because remember, the talk about Garrett Bradbury when he came out was almost like Linderbaum.
Yeah.
Like he was this outside zone, went to the perfect system, right? First round pick by the Vikings.
And I'll admit,
he
I liked
hasn't.
him.
Yeah, he hasn't had pass like people are worried about Linderbaum, right? As you're hearing this come up, pass blocking has been a problem for him. Anyway, I wonder if that's affected Linderbaum. I will tell you this about Linderbaum, and we
broke
did
him
that.
down, yeah.
Broke him down
In the
for the
Make the
draft
Case series, yep.
Check it out on YouTube.
right.
Wrestlers usually figure it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, real fast. Jordan Davis is a
Okay.
guy I haven't heard talked about a lot for Georgia. Like where this monster ends up. Like if he ends up, I saw a picture of him in a Chargers jersey. If he ends up with Mac and Bosa.
Stop.
Or can't you just see him? Doesn't he feel like a Raven to you?
Yeah.
Doesn't he feel like one of those Raven guys, Haloti Nada, Calais Campbell, Saragusa? They've had all these huge nose guards. Anyway, sorry.
Well,
I digress.
yeah, but the Ravens draft really well.
Yes.
They do.
So that's like if he feels like a Raven, that means he's probably a good player.
Yeah,
Probably.
that's true.
I'll just say Chris Olave real quick because if he goes to the Packers, my goodness, Bears, this chat will just lose itself. So I'll just go with Chris Olave and wherever he ends up.
We'll be live Thursday night, by the way, when the Packers make their picks.
Gosh, that's going to be
So,
yeah, it's going to be
If
interesting.
that happens, this will be the place for you to come commiserate. All right, since you haven't been here, Olin, why don't you lead us off?
All right.
We can really do any order, but why don't you go with your guy
Okay.
and who you want to talk about today?
I wanted to talk about kind of a guy who probably undrafted or a late pick. The Bears went after his brother, Brian Allen. Not a lot of good pure centers in this draft. We just talked about Linderbaum, who is the number 1 center in this draft. But Matt Allen from Michigan State, as you can see here, 4-year letter winner, played 44 career games. Interesting guy because leader, right? Gets after people. We just talked about Linderbaum being a wrestler. He is the Illinois heavyweight state champ, which is no small feat. Understands scheme, understands making calls, will lead your line for years. Just a guy I'm interested to see develop. Full disclosure, he trains with me in my gym sometimes, so obviously I'm going to give him a little publicity here.
Yeah.
But a good guy and a guy you can see a team getting and saying, well, we can plug him in and use him. We can use a guy who's a pure center who can make calls, get everybody moving in the right direction, because rare is the quarterback who can make all the calls and recognize the blitzes. So guys who are pure centers become extremely important.
I like that.
Well, they didn't get his brother, so maybe they can make up for it
Yeah,
by grabbing
so
Matt Allen.
I'll go next here, and I think this, Adam, if I'm not mistaken, is the first running back that we've had on our little profiles that we've been doing here at CHGO Bears. So I'm going with Zamir White from Georgia, a guy that you put on the film, put on the tape, physical, Olin. White finishes runs, good with his pad level, and kind of just, it looks like the enforcer out there. And his nickname is Zeus, so I think it's all fitting for how his style of play is.
Was that the guy you put on Twitter?
That was the guy I put on Twitter.
Audition, man.
Yeah,
That was fun.
Angry Runs. Definitely an Angry Runs person that could definitely be on there next season. But great vision. You see him; he's played in different kind of schemes at Georgia, so he knows how to identify, running lanes and how to set up blocks and get that jump cut going to, maximize his running potential. But also, he's a willing blocker, so I think that's something that a lot of college running backs. That's the one area that you really want to see him improve. He's done that at Georgia. The only thing, though, he's only had 17 career receptions there. His teammate James Cook got a lot of the receptions, so you need to see him work on that area of his game, but projecting that 4th or 5th round, the Bears do have a couple of 5th-round draft picks, so they want to get a running back. Maybe Zamir White would be the guy.
I feel like we've broken down a Georgia player every day. Like,
there's so many.
Unbelievable program
Stacked.
right now.
Stacked.
It's just stupid. Like their entire team is going to be in the NFL. One quick thing, not necessarily regarded to the player you just talked about, but just in scouting running backs, because you mentioned there at the end that he doesn't have a whole lot of receptions. Mm-hmm. It is key to actually look at how running backs do catch the ball.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are unfairly knocked coming out for not being able to catch just because people look at their stat sheet and they don't see a lot of catches. Melvin Gordon was like that at Wisconsin. For whatever reason, like the years he was there, they didn't use him a lot. And
You're saying like you have to get there and see him run routes, catch the ball.
So Melvin, I obviously just knew well because being a Wisconsin fan, but like I knew he could catch the ball because every time they asked him to do it, he would catch it and run and it'd be fine. But the problem is, for whatever reason, they didn't have him do it a lot. And so he came out with this knock that he can't catch. And I'm like, if the right team drafts him, puts him in an offense where he's going to have to catch the ball, he's going to be just fine. And that turned out to be the case. So that's the thing. Like, and that goes for all positions. Like, I mean, that's why we talk about scheme and why it matters. Like, some guys don't always end up in college doing the right things that what they develop into. And that's another reason why this is so hard. Same thing we were talking about with Jerry Angelo earlier when we could hear him was, how you figure out character and what, how a guy's going to mature. No one really knows, but that's why this is really, really hard.
I think that's why it's important. As much film as there is, I guess you wonder how hard it was with COVID.
Oh,
because it's got to be important to get there, get in a room with these guys, right, and test them and talk to them and see them, like you're saying, confirm the things you see on film, right? Okay, I see this on film, now let me see you do it.
Mm-hmm. True. Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's an interesting point. Just because they're not doing it doesn't mean they can't.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to stick to the Big Ten because clearly that's the guys I know the best. Jaquan Brisker, the safety. We haven't talked a lot about safeties. We had a few here and there, but good player who really has developed well as a guy who could play either safety position. And I think at the start of his career, he's more of a box safety, and the more and more he developed, really became a guy who's good against the run and the pass. So I think he'd be a good fit for the defense. Love the fact he did not have a penalty the last 2 seasons. And when you start talking about a guy who played 3 years, got his hands on 19 footballs, pass defended, 2 interceptions. I like guys who find the football, especially in the secondary, right? Especially at that safety position. Tough situation, too. We've heard about I think it came from Kevin Fishbane's story, the idea of how Ryan Poles likes these players who have dealt with resiliency. His brother was shot.
You better
and
give
killed.
Fishbane his credit when he writes something from what I see. Okay, so hey, Fish, we always credit you here.
Yes, absolutely. We got to give you the love.
But it's interesting. Like a safety is a guy you're looking for here. Like it's a guy like I've been searching this draft for because when you look at this defense over the years. John Lynch, Mike Brown, Bob Sanders. There's always that guy, right? And you want to see someone who you can fit with Eddie and unlock Eddie, right? So, like, if you can get let's say a coach on the field back there and a hard-hitting box safety and just let Eddie roam, I think it'd be a perfect fit. But safety is a position I kind of been – I don't think they can use that second, third round pick on. But on maybe the 2 5th-round picks, you're kind of thinking, is there a safety there
Sure.
that they like?
And Brisker's a guy that's going to go in the second round, I think. So you'd have to use that second-round pick. And
Well, if you take him in the second round, 9 O-lineman, Ryan, we're going to talk about you and your O-line credibility.
I love it.
Love it.
I love it. Just a final note on Brisker and just resiliency. So the more, by the way, I got to give Dane Brugler credit because like a lot of this stuff comes. Kevin, Kata, can you grab the beast that's over there? You know what I'm talking about, the book? I think it's over on that couch if you want. I just want to hold it up for people to see because Dane Brugler does an unbelievable job with the beast, the draft guide. And a lot of the stuff we're talking about is coming from him. So talking about giving credit, we need to do that. It's right here. But this is one of the many nuggets that you get in The Beast, which is just look how thick this is if you're watching on YouTube.
Gosh.
Every single prospect.
It's like my fisheries 101 class.
The amount of detail.
College.
It's insane. So I
Unreal.
want to give Dane. You got to spend the whole year working on this
Actually,
thing.
get some weight to it.
It's you can start looking like Olin if you keep using
Yeah,
this all
very
weekend.
true.
Hey, but so Brisker's a perfect example. He ended up going to the junior college route to begin with. And you read in here, he wasn't focused on his grades. That wasn't important to him. Then you find out his brother was shot and killed.
Oh, boy.
When he was in high school.
That's what I'm saying about the draft week, right? Like, so many amazing stories.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's a fun week, man. It really is.
Like if my brother was shot and killed in high school, I probably wouldn't care about grades either. You know what I mean?
true.
So then you read
true.
his teammates at Penn State say he's the ultimate leader. Nobody works harder than him. And you see a guy there. We talked about this last week, Nick. I like guys that from high school to like the draft, you're on this trajectory. Mm-hmm. Even, there's going to be ups and downs. But when we talked about the Clemson wide receiver last week, and it was like he seemed to peak as a freshman, and then some of it's injuries or whatever. But whatever, that's risky to me. I like guys that are still going like this. And Brisker seems to be one of those guys who's dealt with resiliency and is still ascending.
To your point, a lot of times people will ask former NFL players, what do you think is one of the most important attributes to being an NFL player? And here's something a lot of people don't know NFL guys deal with. You have to learn to deal with absolutely getting your ass kicked. Because most guys, when you get there, it's never happened before. You have never failed that much on a football field. I like to say percentage-wise, Pro Bowlers probably win 70% of the time. That means 30% of the time, you're getting your ass handed to you, right? And you usually come out of college, maybe you lost 1 to 2 plays the whole year, right? Because you face an NFL guy maybe once in your season, right? You don't face a guy every week. So like you guys are talking about, resiliency, but also the ability to say, okay, I just got to keep – Adam had it perfect. And really, I take Adam's hand and go like, right, like just keep moving in this direction. It's a hard thing to do in the NFL. And the guys who can do that usually end up being successful.
They stay in the league for a long time.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, speaking of resiliency and fighting through things, Olin Kreutz back. Disney World, man. That you need some resiliency.
You gotta be resilient at Disney World.
Look at that. I mean, that's a live look at Olin last week.
That was me. When you have 4 daughters, anything is possible. When they put it on your head, you don't take it off.
Love it.
It was tough, man. Disney, you walk all day. My 6-year-old still thinks she belongs in a stroller, so you got to push the stroller. It's better than carrying her, right? It's better than carrying her. True. But if you get your popcorn and your turkey leg and drink 100 Diet Cokes and whatever else you get your hand on, and in Harry Potter world, they have the witch's brew, which is basically an IPA. So you get some of those, get yourself through the day.
See, I didn't really get to experience. We went to Disney a lot as a kid, but I haven't really been there since I'm an adult now.
Yeah.
And like when I was a kid,
you're going soon. You got 7, right? 7?
Well, so yeah, we'll get there soon. We have to. But like I remember going through Epcot, like all the countries, and like I actually liked that as a kid.
Right.
But as an adult now, I'm going. I don't understand why my parents want to come here all the time. They probably just got a
You're
beverage
drinking.
in every single
You
country.
have to try each country's drink, right? And
Now I know
see
why.
if you can make it out to the car. But they got all the trams, and you're not drinking and driving, and you're good. But it's exercise, man. Especially when you got, I still had 5. Our 6th one is in college. So, but it's some work.
I've never been. I was like a Six Flags kid growing up. So
Oh,
we
that's
were
cool,
like
too.
10 minutes away from Six Flags. So Disneyland's definitely on
We
the
should
on
do
the
a
bucket
show
list.
outing to Six Flags. I love Great America.
Yeah, Great America's
You
great.
do roller coasters, Olin?
I do just because I'm forced onto the roller coaster to ride with my young kids, and I always blame my daughters for all the swearing, but it's usually me swearing. So I say, "Why were you swearing on the ride?" But it's me. But to be honest, once they're older, probably not. Probably won't
Okay.
get on a roller coaster again.
Fair enough.
There's 3D now ones. They're different now.
Ooh.
So now there's 3D, 4D,
I don't
right?
know what that
Like
means.
you can smell the food that they're showing. So and then you actually get like motion sickness. So you got to be careful on all these rides now, right? Because now it's like, Kong is in your face breathing on you.
That can't smell good.
Some alien gets killed, head chopped off, and the water flies on you.
Oh wow.
So it's all different.
There was a roller coaster I went on last year at Six Flags that went like, I don't remember what it's called, the Joker or something.
Oh, the
Something
Joker,
Like that.
yeah.
It just keeps flipping and flipping. And there was one point where I swear I almost hit my feet on the bar, and I got off the ride, and there was actually a height.
That's what
max.
happens when you're 6'3".
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. I was actually over the height limit and wasn't supposed to be. I'm
You
like,
weren't supposed to be on the ride?
I'm like, who? Someone should have told me not to get on the ride.
Wow.
I tell you what, that giant drop is something there.
Oh, I hate
that
the
giant drop is something.
Cannot
there
do
now.
it.
Yeah, those roller coasters, some of them are a little. They have a new one now at Universal Studios in Florida. It's called the Raptor. And I just
Sounds
looked
fun.
at
Sounds
it, and my son James is like, "Dad, you want to go on?" I go, "I'll be here. I'll be right here.
Supporting you.
I will protect the stroller. Somebody has to."
Somebody has to.
Great. Hey, well, we're glad you're back.
Yep, good to
Big
be
week
back.
with the draft. Olin's going to be here later on in the week, shutting it down on, we're going to have the draft covered. Trust me, it's going to be awesome. Want to give a shout out to our fans that came out Friday night for the watch party. It's too bad the Bulls didn't show up, but you guys did, and we had a couple from the Bears show that were like, "Hey man, yeah, we were in our Bulls gear, but we came here for the Bears crew." So appreciate those guys that came out. Awesome time. I know I had a good time.
CHGO takeover.
Yeah. Hey, it's continuing.
Hey,
We're gonna
Joey,
keep it going.
what's going on?
Yeah, Joey was Joey was there, and we appreciated. We had a good time.
It was a good time,
Thing.
so.
When games go bad, I didn't have as good of a time watching the White Sox yesterday blow the game when I was at home by myself. That's not as much fun. That's when you start want to throw things at your TV, which is not wise. I do not recommend that. Follow us on Twitter. We're here at Adam Hoge, at Nicholas Moreano, at Olin _Kreutz, at CHGO _sports and _Bears. We got you fully covered. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Hit the notifications. Please rate and review the podcast if you listen to us that way. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. What are we, like late? I think we have an afternoon show tomorrow, 3 o'clock, I want to say, because Ryan Poles talks to the media. Brian Piccolo Award tomorrow, so we're going to have all that covered from House Hall.
I
We'll
wonder
come back
who
to
has
the
the
afternoon.
most Brian Piccolos all time.
Ooh.
Maybe it's possible.
Okay.
It's possible.
Trivia.
Trivia
That's actually pretty impressive. That award means a lot.
does.
And then they only offered you $15 an hour after
That's
all those
crazy.
big-
Well,
I mean,
you have
what
to
the
again
hell?
go back to all the contracts. There's actually 40+ million there somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, let's average that over the hours. We'll figure out the correct
It all
number.
averages out.
We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.